Okay, let's just jump right in. If you're trying to figure out what's going on with the Indian economy right now, well, good luck. You're probably getting some serious whiplash. Because, the signals we're seeing are pointing in completely different directions. It's like there are these two massive tensions pulling everything apart.
And that really gets to the heart of the matter, the big question we're tackling today. Is the Indian economy actually growing? Or is it consolidating, maybe even slowing down? The crazy part is, the answer seems to be yes to both.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with this tale of two economies, then check out the government's spending spree versus the consumer slowdown. We'll also unpack that big tariff shock from the US and wrap up by trying to find where the bright spots are in the market.
All right, Section 1, the tale of two economies. And honestly, this is the best way to think about it. It really is like a giant tug-of-war, with these incredibly strong forces pulling the economy in totally opposite directions at the exact same time.
So on one side of the rope, you've got this huge push for growth. And that's pretty much all coming from the government pouring money into infrastructure. A little help from inflation finally chilling out doesn't hurt either. But then, on the other side, you have this massive pull, dragging it all back. Consumers just aren't opening their wallets, exports have hit a wall, and then bam, this tariff shock from the US is like a huge gust of wind right in our face.
Okay, let's dive into that growth engine. Seriously, the government has its foot slammed on the gas pedal right now. It feels like they're trying to single-handedly drag the entire economy forward with public money.
And I mean, just look at this number. A 52% year-on-year increase in government capital spending, or CapEx, in just the first quarter. That is not an accident. That is a massive, deliberate push to flood the system with cash.
So where's all that money? 2.75 lakh crore actually going? Well, you can see it. Gross fixed capital formation, which is really just a fancy way of saying investment in long-term assets, is up almost 9.5%. And the ripple effect is obvious. Sales for things like bulldozers and cranes, up 55%. And the stuff you need to build with, like steel and cement, that's up over 7%.
And this quote from Zerota nails it. They say, it looks like the government wants to increase public investment to boost the economy, which is going through a rough patch on the consumption side. That's it, right there. It's a clear strategy. Use government money to plug the hole left by consumers.
But now we have to look at the other side of that rope. Despite all that government firepower, some big parts of the economy are pumping the brakes. And it's mostly about what you, me, and other countries are, or rather, aren't buying.
Take a look at factory output, for instance. The Index of Industrial Production, the IIP, it's like a pulse check for our manufacturing sector. A year ago, it was beating strong at almost 5% growth. Today, it's down to just 1.5%. That's not a slowdown, that's a screeching halt. In auto sales, they tell a really interesting, kind of confusing story. They're a great window into how people are feeling about spending money. Tractor sales are up almost 9%. That suggests the rural economy is doing okay. But passenger cars, for city folks and families, growth there is a measly 2.4%. It's a real mixed bag.
And the warning signs keep popping up. Exports went nowhere in June, flat. Sales of everyday stuff, your FMCG goods, actually dipped a bit. And the things that power industry, like mining and electricity, both down. Even corporate profits, while still growing, have slowed their pace to around 7.5%. Put it all together, and it really looks like things are consolidating.
And just when you thought the domestic picture was complicated enough, along comes this huge problem from outside. Let's talk about this American tariff dragon. That's what some are calling it, and it's a massive threat to India's entire export game.
Now, this didn't happen all at once, which is what makes it so brutal. First, there was a 25% tariff. Okay, tough but manageable. But then, they slapped another 25% levy right on top of it. You do the math, that's a 50% tariff on a huge chunk of our exports to the US. Just wow.
So what does a 50% tariff actually do to the whole economy? Well, the economists have crunched the numbers, and the general agreement is this could slice off almost 0.5% from India's GDP growth. In the world of macroeconomics, that is a huge, huge hit.
And this pain isn't shared equally.
These tariffs are a direct hit to some of our most important industries, the ones that create tons of jobs. We're talking textiles and apparel, gems and jewelry, electronics, auto parts, even pharma and chemicals. These sectors employ millions, and they're right in the crosshairs.
But, okay, let's look at the other side of the coin. A lot of market experts are saying, hold on. They see these tariffs as a big, painful speed bump, for sure, but not a total roadblock. The whole China plus one thing, where global companies are desperate to build factories outside of China, that's not going away, and India is still at the top of that list.
So, let's recap. We've got this wild situation. The government is flooring it, consumers are hitting the brakes, and there's a tariff monster breathing down our necks. So, where do you even begin to look for opportunities in the market? How do we find our way through this maze?
To help us out, we're going to use a nifty little tool called a relative rotation graph, or an RRG. Sounds complicated, but it's not. All it does is map out different market sectors to show us who's leading the pack, who's starting to catch up, who's falling behind, and who's just, well, lagging.
And here's what the chart shows for this week. In the leading corner, you've got MNCs looking strong, but PSU banks are losing a bit of steam. Over and improving, things are looking up for pharma and consumer durables. But look at the weakening box. That's where you find banks and financial services. And finally, down and lagging, we have FMCG. But, and this is important, it's starting to pick up momentum.
So what are the big takeaways from all this? Well, it looks like pharma and consumer durables are the ones showing real signs of improving strength. They could be the outperformers. And you might want to keep an eye on FMCG. Yeah, it's lagging, but that improving momentum could signal a turnaround. On the flip side, it probably pays to be a bit careful with sectors losing steam like banks and real estate.
Okay, we have looked at so much conflicting stuff. So what's the actual bottom line here? What's the one thing to take away from this whole complicated picture?
It really brings us right back to where we started. You've got this powerful engine, the government's CapEx push, driving everything forward, especially in infra. But at the exact same time, you've got the brakes being slammed on by weak consumer spending and that really nasty tariff shock. The engine is on, and the brakes are on. Both are true.
Which leaves us with one last really important question. In an economy that's fighting itself, pushing and pulling all at once, what's the right move? Is this the time to play defense, to be cautious and protect what you have? Or is it the time to play offense, to hunt for those specific areas that are actually thriving amidst the chaos?